studying your last two. I swim med when they turned in. The staring down to mute. And can learn the pole that sunk he died.
Let's move from theory into a practical tax planning case. Meet Natasha Barnes, the owner of Barnes Dentistry Professional Corporation. Like many successful professionals, Natasha has accumulated profits inside her corporation and now wants to withdraw cash to support her personal and family needs. Her goal is simple. She needs $120,000 of dividend income. But determining how to pay that dividend is where the tax planning challenge begins. At the center of the slide, we can see Natasha's corporate tax dashboard. Her corporation has 3 important tax accounts, and each one influences the dividend decision. The first account is GRIP, or General Rate Income Pool. Natasha has a GRIP balance of $75,000. This represents her corporation's eligible dividend capacity. In other words, the corporation can pay up to $75,000 of eligible dividends without creating an excess eligible dividend problem. The second account is ERDTOH, or Eligible Refundable Dividend Tax on Hand. Natasha has an ERDTOH balance of $8,000. As we've learned, ERDTOH is the flexible refund account. The corporation can potentially recover this refundable tax through either eligible dividends or non-eligible dividends. The third account is NERDTOH, or Non-Eligible Refundable Dividend Tax on Hand. Natasha's corporation has a NERDTOH balance of $12,000. Unlike ERDTOH, this account is restricted. To recover the refundable tax sitting in NERDTOH, the corporation must pay non-eligible dividends. And that's where the planning challenge emerges. Natasha needs $120,000 of dividend income, but she cannot simply choose one dividend type and ignore the other accounts. Each account pushes the decision in a different direction. GRIP encourages eligible dividends, because eligible dividends generally result in lower personal tax. NERDTOH encourages non-eligible dividends because non-eligible dividends are required to recover the refundable tax. ERDTOH provides flexibility because either dividend type can potentially trigger a refund. This is why the question at the bottom of the slide is so important. How should Natasha structure her dividends? Should she pay only eligible dividends? Only non-eligible dividends? Or some combination of both? The answer requires balancing all 3 tax attributes at the same time. And this is exactly how professional tax planning works. Real-world dividend decisions are rarely based on a single factor. Instead, advisors must consider GRIP, ERDTOH, and NERDTOH together to determine the most efficient strategy. The key takeaway from this slide is simple. Natasha does not have one tax account. She has 3: GRIP, ERDTOH, and NERDTOH. And the correct dividend strategy must take all 3 into account simultaneously. In the next slide, we'll see why these accounts create competing objectives and why finding the right dividend mix becomes a sophisticated tax planning exercise rather than a simple dividend decision. Now that we understand Natasha's tax accounts, let's look at the real challenge. The difficulty isn't calculating a dividend. The difficulty is choosing the right mix of dividends. At first glance, Natasha's objective seems simple. She wants to withdraw cash from her corporation. But as soon as we examine the tax attributes available, we discover that multiple goals are competing with each other. And that's exactly what makes dividend planning a strategic exercise. Let's start with the first goal shown at the bottom left of the slide. Natasha's corporation has a NERDTOH balance of $12,000. As we've learned, NERDTOH is restricted. To recover this refundable tax, the corporation must pay non-eligible dividends. This immediately pushes the strategy toward non-eligible dividends. Now look at the second goal. The corporation also has an ERDTOH balance of $8,000. Unlike NERDTOH, ERDTOH is flexible. The refund can be recovered using either eligible dividends or non-eligible dividends. This gives the tax advisor additional planning options. ERDTOH doesn't force a specific dividend choice. Instead, it provides flexibility. Now let's consider the third goal. Like most shareholders, Natasha wants to minimize her personal tax. In many situations, eligible dividends receive more favorable tax treatment than non-eligible dividends. That means this objective pushes the strategy toward eligible dividends. And now we have the conflict illustrated on the right side of the slide. One objective is encouraging non-eligible dividends. Another objective allows either dividend type. And a third objective favors eligible dividends. All three goals are pulling the decision in different directions. This is why choosing only one dividend type is often not the best answer. A strategy focused entirely on non-eligible dividends may recover refundable taxes but increase personal tax. A strategy focused entirely on eligible dividends may reduce personal tax, but leave some refundable tax trapped inside NERDTOH. Neither extreme necessarily produces the optimal result. The decision matrix at the bottom summarizes the planning process. If the goal is to recover NERDTOH, non-eligible dividends are required. If the goal is to recover ERDTOH, either dividend type can work. If the goal is to reduce personal tax, eligible dividends are generally preferred. A professional advisor must balance all three objectives simultaneously. And that's the key lesson from this slide. Dividend planning is not about maximizing a single objective. It is about balancing competing objectives. Recover refundable taxes, use available flexibility, and minimize overall tax. The best solution is usually not an all-or-nothing approach. Instead, it often involves a carefully designed combination of eligible and non-eligible dividends. In the next slide, we'll see exactly how tax advisors approach this problem and how they determine the optimal dividend mix by analyzing NERDTOH, ERDTOH, and GRIP in a logical sequence. We've now reached the heart of dividend planning. Natasha's corporation has GRIP, ERDTOH, and NERDTOH balances. The question is no longer about understanding the rules. The question is how to use those rules to create the best overall tax outcome. This is where tax advisors follow a structured decision-making process. Let's walk through it step by step. The first step is always to look at NERDTOH. Natasha's corporation has a NERDTOH balance of $12,000. Because NERDTOH is restrictive, it requires non-eligible dividends to generate a refund. That means the first planning question is, how much non-eligible dividend must be paid to recover this refundable tax? This becomes the starting point of the strategy. Once the NERDTOH issue has been addressed, the advisor moves to step 2. Now we examine ERDTOH. Natasha has an ERDTOH balance of $8,000. Unlike NERDTOH, ERDTOH is flexible. The refund can be recovered through either eligible dividends or non-eligible dividends. This gives the advisor more freedom when designing the remainder of the dividend plan. Next comes step 3. Review the corporation's GRIP balance. Natasha has $75,000 of GRIP available. This represents the corporation's eligible dividend capacity. The advisor now asks, how much eligible dividend can be paid while remaining within the GRIP limits? The answer helps determine how much of the remaining dividend distribution can receive the more favorable eligible dividend treatment. After analyzing all three accounts, the advisor develops the dividend mix shown in the center of the slide. Notice that the pie chart is not 100% eligible dividends, and it's not 100% non-eligible dividends. Instead, it is a combination of both. This is an important insight. In many real-world situations, The optimal solution is a balanced approach. Some non-eligible dividends are paid to recover NERDTOH. Some eligible dividends are paid to take advantage of GRIP and reduce personal tax. The objective is not to maximize one account. The objective is to optimize the overall result. The professional goals listed on the right side of the slide summarize this process. Recover refundable taxes. Use GRIP efficiently. Minimize personal tax. And avoid penalties. A good dividend strategy achieves all four objectives simultaneously. The flow diagram at the bottom illustrates the advisor's thought process. Start with the NERDTOH balance. Determine the minimum non-eligible dividend required to recover the refund. Once the refund is secured, use the available GRIP balance to support eligible dividends. This allows Natasha to benefit from lower personal tax rates while still recovering refundable taxes trapped inside the corporation. The final outcome is a more efficient overall tax result. More refunds are recovered. GRIP is utilized effectively. Personal tax is reduced. And corporate tax attributes are not wasted. The key takeaway from this slide is the mindset of a professional tax advisor. The correct dividend mix usually starts with recovering NERDTOH. After that, GRIP and ERDTOH are used to maximize flexibility and improve tax efficiency. In other words, the best dividend strategy is rarely all eligible dividends or all non-eligible dividends. It's usually a carefully designed combination that balances refund recovery, tax efficiency, and compliance. And that is the essence of sophisticated dividend planning.